broadcast journalist and TV producer. Welcome to my interview series, Diversity and Inclusion in TV, Radio and Film, in which industry professionals talk to me about their experiences, their opinions and ideas on how decision makers in this business can make a positive and lasting difference to create workplaces that are free of prejudice. As a British Pakistani woman working in this industry for over 25 years, as you can imagine, inclusion and fairness are really important to me. And one of the main reasons I'm doing this interview series is to make more visible the diverse talent behind cameras and to give them a platform on which they can share their experiences and thoughts. If you'd like to keep up to date with all the interviews in my series, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for regular reminders. Now, let me introduce you to my guest today. She's a focus puller and she's worked across TV, documentaries and short films, and she's toured with the Foo Fighters. Welcome, Ravi Kang. Hi, Ravi.
Hi, Samina.
Hi, Ravi. So let's start with you sharing what's your experience been of working on sets in terms of inclusion, representation and diversity.
So yeah, I've been working in film and TV for nearly, almost 20 years. And when I first started, I would definitely go onto set and you would definitely notice the amount of non-white faces, if there were any. And it was very...
purely because they stood out.
Well, no, because you always wonder, like you go onto set and you're just looking and yeah, they do stand out because you're almost always looking for someone else who may be like you or, not in a racist way at all, but there is a little comfort factor that you know that there's someone else who is also a minority.
And perhaps going through a similar experience to you or thoughts and feelings.
Exactly. And it did take, I think within the camera department especially, it took me a good few years to actually realise or meet another minority. And I thought, not that I wanted to be the only Indian in the camera department, but it was nice to know that there are other sort of Black or Asian camera department and also female as well. That was the other factor.
And you shared with us that the people from diverse backgrounds were sparse. Has that improved over the years?
It definitely has improved. I would say, recently especially, and maybe in the last 2-3 years, I have noticed a lot more ethnic minorities on shoots. And maybe that's because of companies trying to make a point or purposely only hiring or, percentage of people. But equally, not that they are getting a job because of the colour of their skin on their own merit.
Yeah, and also what's your personal experience been? Has it always been positive working as an Indian woman in a very male-dominated camera department?
I would say it has been quite positive, but there are, you always remember the ones or the jobs that that maybe people made it slightly more difficult for you, and you don't know whether it's because you're a female or of colour. So you don't know what the reasons were. There is elements, sometimes I do remember perhaps someone not sort of slightly being quite nasty or making comments on how, not giving me the job or not giving it to me because I'm either not strong enough or not physically able. So there is that sort of judgment. And sometimes there are jobs where you know that you're not going to get the next job because the next male white guy is going to do it because they have a camaraderie or they have, they might even talk about football or the usual thing. They've got this connection that you don't have.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So how have you navigated working in a male-dominated environment? Because as you said, if they find a sudden connection, how can you infiltrate that?
You do kind of sometimes have to, not that I want to go into watch football or things like that. You do end up sort of being quite jokey, or you do get a connection with a lot of people in other ways. But there is always an element you will know that especially as male and females do doubt yourselves a lot more. And I always find myself doubting myself. And whereas I know,
why is that? Can you share with us why do you think that is?
I think there's a thing called the imposter syndrome, where you feel like you're not good enough. And, you know, I've got a job next week and I will go, oh God, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I can't do that. Whereas if you're a male, for whatever reason, I don't know why, they'll go, oh, I'll give it a go. And, you know, there's no second thought about it. Whereas I'll have a sleepless night thinking, oh, I'm not good enough. I haven't done this for a while, or I haven't worked with that person for a while. I have no idea, but females definitely do go through a harder sort of mental sort of work plan to think, can I do this? Can I do this? And it is frustrating, because once you get to the job and you go, oh, I knew I could, you know, you just doubt yourself, and you do the job perfectly well. But is
that because you feel like you've got something more to prove, because you're in this male dominated arena of the, you know, various camera departments that you work in?
Definitely. I do think you feel like you've got more to prove, because, you know, the guy would have just turned up, done the job, and there would have been no issues, or, you know, if there was an issue, they would have solved it straight away. Whereas you've been like, oh, maybe even overthinking it, and you're just going, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Will I be able to carry that? Or, you know, and you won't know until you do it. And then when you have done it, you feel, I think it's more of an achievement to say, yes, you know, I knew I could do it. Just have to believe in yourself. But females, as a female, I definitely do go through those days all the time.
Do you think perhaps you could take on something of what you see from that male environment, where they, you know, as you described, they just have a go, they just do it, and they just go in with, you know, without overthinking it? Is that something you could adopt?
I think I have in recent years, but it has taken me, like, you know, 17, 18 years to actually go, you know what, I'm going to think like a man. Like, I'm just going to do it. And
do you really have to think like a man? How do you know what it is to think like a man? You're not a man.
No, but I'm just going to think, well, you know, well, they do it, so I'm just going to go, right, I'm just going to go and do it. And if the job turns out terrible, I will probably not work with that person again, because they thought I was terrible. Or, you know, if it turns out to be a good day, then that's a bonus.
Yeah. And you talked about the physicality, you know, of being a woman. And this is not the first time I'm hearing this. I've interviewed other, you know, women working in the camera department. And this seems to be one of the things they kind of, you know, presented with, that, are you strong enough to carry the kit, and so on. I mean, not until you're given a go, you don't know. So what are your thoughts on that?
No, it's true. I mean, camera equipment is extremely heavy, and that's just the cameras itself, and then the lenses, and then, you know, once they're put into boxes, lugging boxes around on top of that, it's, you know, it is. So you do feel like you have to, you know, keep fit, keep strong, and you don't want to show that as a weakness, because you do sometimes want to say, like, oh, you know, someone will go, oh, do you want a hand? And you can sometimes go, no, I can do this myself. And there are times when you go, oh, you know what, okay, just, yeah, I'll take it. You can give me a hand.
Yeah, take the box.
Yeah.
So I just want to talk about, you know, actually talking about diversity and inclusion can be challenging. If you have to bring that up in a workplace because there's been an issue or a problem, that can be really challenging, because I think a lot of people might, you know, from diverse backgrounds, or women for that matter, might be overly mindful of, will I be seen as a troublemaker? Or, you know, am I just bringing unnecessary attention to myself? I mean, what do you think the way forward is for people of color and women, and, you know, others from underrepresented groups, when they find themselves in a difficult situation, to actually speak up?
It is hard, because, yeah, you don't want to see yourself as a troublemaker, and you don't, like, you know, you don't want to play the race card, or, you know, to say, oh, I'm a female, that's why I'm being picked on. You just have to be really strong and, like, thick-skinned. And if you believe if you do feel excluded, or you have to stand up. You know, there is times when I have been on shoots when I was a loader. And there's certain...
A loader is the
second, second camera assistant.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there is times when I've done a shoot and someone has made a snigger that they could have, why did it have to be someone of colour who could do this job? And I kind of brushed it off, and I didn't, you know, I heard it. It wasn't directed at me, but oh, well, no, sorry, it was directed to me, but not to me. And it kind of stuck in my head. And I know like certain departments do have a very male, white, you know, the way they talk, and you know, it's just a thing that one certain department has, and you just have to, you either, you know, if it gets to you that much, I mean, you know, now I wish I had spoken about it or gone to the head and said, you know, this isn't right, someone said this. But at the time, because I was only a second, you know, AC, I just let it go and just avoided that person from then on.
This is what I'm trying, you know, this is the point I'm trying to make, because, you know, I know from my own experience, I started working on crews when I first began my career, and I'm not just directing this at crews, it can happen across the board, but I just didn't have that confidence as a junior member of the team when I came across any kind of discrimination or exclusion to go speak to anyone, because I thought I'm going to be considered a troublemaker, and, you know, or I'm going to be excluded even more. And what I'm trying to understand here is how we can move forward, because I would hate for somebody in a junior role to go through, you know, what we've been through. It would just be awful to know. But the problem is, no doubt it's still happening, because the industry isn't an equal playing field for all yet. You know, I'm optimistic about it becoming so. But in the meantime, what I'm trying to understand is how can those, you know, people at entry level, those who are, you know, at the beginning of their career, have that confidence? Because as you get older, you get more confident anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I think after I've taken a bit of a time out and have only recently come back sort of full steam, and I have noticed a huge difference within the dynamics of the, you know, a film set of minorities and underrepresented. And I think coming back, I can see that actually there is more of an open door within, you know, if there is an issue, I do feel that you could go to production and say what your issue is. And I think they do take things a bit more seriously now. Whereas back then, when I first started, I didn't feel comfortable enough to question, you know, or say, look, somebody said this, or this has happened and I don't feel happy about it. I do think that I would have been, you know, seen as a troublemaker, or she's, you know, she's got issues or whatever. But I feel now coming back, you know, and, you know, things have changed a lot.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the industry, I think things have improved, but I think the industry is under a spotlight, and it's under a lot of pressure to step up their game in terms of, you know, supporting people from diverse communities and those from underrepresented groups. So that is hopefully going to keep improving the landscape for people, you know, from our kind of backgrounds.
Absolutely, yeah. No, they will. I mean, yeah, I mean, I've seen a huge, I can notice, you know, the difference immensely within the last 20 years. And it's great to see. You know, recently I've done a shoot where I think I would say I, you know, had probably at least 6 or 7 brown faces, or, you know, of colour or different ethnic background. And it is nice to see, because that kind of represents the world we live in. We're not just, you know, just the odd brown or
homogenous is what you're trying to say.
Exactly. And it is nice to see.
I have a question about that, and this isn't to be cynical, it's purely a question. You described the set as being more diverse. Do you think that's because in the freelance world, it's like who you know pretty much, and you get recommendations for jobs? Is it because you just happen to know a more diverse group, and therefore when you work on sets, it's those diverse groups recommending you? Or is it just, you know, naturally, I think there has been a progression and improvement, but I'm just trying to get to, you know, the source of what you've just said.
Yeah, no, so, well, recently, I would definitely say a lot of my jobs have been, perhaps they're looking for a diverse crew. So therefore, I'm hoping I still get the merit from being good at what I do. But then there's a bonus of, you know, being of colour. But that's not how you want to have your career. You want it to be because you're good at your job. But there are, like, I don't know, there's elements of it is difficult, because
how do you think the industry can, you know, balance that to ensure that they get people who are recruited on merit, but at the same time, they get a fair opportunity. Do you think that there needs to be audits on sets to improve representation? Or do you think those who are the decision makers, those who are the recruiters, need to have a more examined way of thinking before they make their selection?
Yeah, I mean, I think mentorships, definite role models are like a huge, I never had any role models when, I first started. I didn't, there was very few, I didn't even personally know any DOPs that were of color or, disabilities or anything. I didn't know anyone. They were all male and white. And then as I started sort of working more and more in the industry, that I sort of met females who were DOPs, and I thought, oh God, it is possible. And quite a few, most of them didn't have children. So that was another element of thinking, if you do have a family, you probably don't come back to the industry, or you have to make a choice of not having family to, get to the top. So it is tricky, and things have definitely changed a lot, I would say, in the last few years, and it has helped people of color, ethnic, minorities. And I think maybe it's just becoming more accessible rather than an elitist career.
Okay. And I'd just like to talk about another aspect of freelancing, nepotism. I mean, it's a bit of a problem in our industry. Getting recommended through friends or work colleagues, should I say, with whom you've worked and you've proven yourself, that's I can understand that. But getting a job through your dad knowing somebody or your mom knowing somebody or whatever, I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't find that as acceptable, because already that position has been taken and the opportunities to recruit on merit have been removed. What's your thinking about this? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's so deep rooted, unfortunately. I mean, not just within the UK film industry, but it's famous in Bollywood that your father, your uncle, your whoever, they're all within it, and I think it's just going to be so hard to stamp that out. I mean, I know quite a few focus pullers whose parents, mainly dads, are DOPs, so that they've already had like a helping hand in meeting, networking. There wasn't that having to, how do you get your foot in the door? It was, I spoke to my dad. But yeah, so it is, it's, I mean, it would be good to have something like on set to say each one should have your own merit for getting this job, not just because your dad knew someone or whatever. And, like I spent 7 years as a clapper loader second AC. And there is some people that I know who's spent like 2 years and jumped up to focus pulling because, their dad took them on all the jobs or knew this or knew that. And, they're not to say that they didn't know any less, but sometimes it's like you feel like I did my time.
Yeah, and
so
they have the advantage. I mean, yeah, it is quite frustrating, but like you said, it's quite a universal problem, whether it's the British industry, the American, or the Indian Bollywood industry, Ravi, it's been really good to hear you share your experiences working in the camera department. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Whether you're at entry level or you're a seasoned professional working across TV, radio, or film, I'd love for you to share your experiences around inclusion and representation. Please do share your stories with me and, post in the comments section below. Also, feel free to continue this conversation, this discussion. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on what perhaps we've discussed today, or what your thoughts and ideas are about the state of play in the media industry currently. Also, to keep up to date with all my interviews, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel and feel free to follow me across my social media platforms where I post regularly details of who I'm interviewing and when. Well, it's been lovely having your company today. Thank you so much for joining me, and see you next time.